Shalom, shalom, shalom. Welcome everybody to another video. Thank you so much for clicking in, you guys, and thank you for both the new subscribers. Thank you so much, and also for those who have been with me for a good while. Thank you. Really, really do appreciate it. Okay, so for today, we're going to continue on this series, if you will, this Black Gatekeeper series. Because and I think I touched on this on the last one I did. And it's because that, in this awakening to what the Most High, I see what the Most High is doing right now. He's opening our eyes to a lot of these old systems that have held us down as a people, that have maintained the status quo. And these are topics that, we've had people kind of mention some of these organizations, have done some research in, and I'm certainly not the only one on YouTube, have done a video or done videos, I should say, on Black Greek letter organizations. I mean, there are other people. Just do a quick search, you'll find that. In fact, you'll also find numbers of people, and that number is growing, of people who are actually leaving these organizations because they're starting to see the truth behind them as well. So, but this ties into how we are to pray as a people. And, as it relates to these different organizations and what we need to be praying against. Because these organizations are very powerful, and the stronghold, if you will, that they've had over the psyche of us as so-called black folks is pretty powerful. But, Yah is much more powerful than all of this stuff. So as we are praying and praying for our people, praying for our families and stuff like that, we got to be, the Bible talks about how we have to pray in the Ruach, or pray in the Spirit, and with understanding. So what we're going to be talking about today, you see in front of you, we're going to be talking about the organization, the Links, Inc. I've heard about this, and I'm sure many of y'all have heard of this organization as well growing up. If you've spent any time in black culture, you've heard this organization's name come up at least every now and then. And very influential. And but I haven't seen anybody really delve in and really take a critical eye and look at what this organization is about. Well, the Links is certainly one of them that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be looking at some of these other organizations as well, such as Jack and Jill. We're going to be, any and all these social organizations. When you start peeling back the layer, see what they use is a lot of times they use a lot of like, well, we do this for the community and that for the community. But as you're going to see as we go through this presentation here, that's only just on the outside. Okay, we're going to start delving in and seeing what these organizations really are about. And they're very open about it, but they prey on the ignorance, if you will, of the general population so that they can continue to maintain their own little status quo. Okay. Before we get started on this, though, just as a addendum, if you will, to the last one I did on the Johnson Publishing Company, I actually, it's funny. When I was doing that one, I just had this little thought come to my mind, and I realized now that was the Most High. The thought was like, man, wouldn't it be something if someone saw this video and they were actually a part of that family, the Johnson family. And sure enough, it happened. I actually got an email, pretty long email, from someone who was part of that family through marriage, but they were part of that family nonetheless. And they remember both of them, both the husband and the wife that was over that company. And they kind of validated pretty much a lot of what I was saying in that video. They talked about from their own perspective, being in the family, they saw how that classism played a key role, just even when they would gather together for family reunions. Because you had one part of the family that was, according to this individual, one part of the family, they were just regular working class people. They just work day in and day out, just like everybody else. Then you had the other side of the family. These people were more the affluent, they were well connected. They were boule and all this other stuff. And so when they would do family reunions, they would talk, this individual was saying that they would, the working class part of the family, they try to make it affordable so that everyone can be a part of it, right? Well, then it came time for the Johnson not the Johnson side of the family, but the Johnson, John Johnson and his wife. And it was a whole segment of their family when they would get together and it was their turn to handle the family reunions. It was a much different story. In fact, they would have it at these high-end hotels and resorts, and made it to where only a certain few within the family could make it. So it was causing some division within the family. And so again, these are stories that we don't, that you don't often hear about, but this is what it brings division. So I don't care how many magazines you come out with and talk about black unity and how we're helping the people and all that kind of stuff, but it starts at home. Character begins at home. And, if you had this kind of stuff going on in your whole household, then it does warrant a closer inspection. We talked about in that video about the colorism and the impact that it had on us as a people, even to this day. Again, I talked about how colorism, again, certainly was not invented by the Johnson Publishing Company, but they sure profited off of it. Not only did the Johnson Publishing Company profit off of colorism, but also the Alpha Phi Alpha, they profited off of this as well. Alpha Phi Alpha is a black Greek letter organization. They profited off of it as well. So if you want to find out more about that, go back into the video. Go back and watch that video if you haven't watched it already. But again, I thought it was very interesting, and I would encourage anybody as we cover this topic, if you're part of this organization we're going to be talking about today, the links, you got my email. I'll give it to you again. It's connect@issacharonline.com. Connect@issacharonline.com, because what I was talking about in our prayer session we were having yesterday at the time of this recording, I was saying it's time. I feel like the Most High has really blown the door open to all of these organizations. And now it's time for us to go in and begin to start exposing these things for what they really are. We're not going to make it spooky, because it's not. It's in your face and they're telling you what they're doing. This is not because anybody can sit down and talk about, the secret societies and all that other stuff. You know how they hold their hands and all that stuff. We ain't going to talk about that. I'm just going to cover what they actually are saying and what they have actually been doing. We're going to be looking at it from different angles. And this particular presentation is going to be more of a focus on the political side of it, but it also bleeds into social and economic. So we're going to be looking at it from multiple angles. And it's just the links for this one, but in future ones, we're going to be talking about other organizations and looking at them the very same way. Okay, so we're looking at all of them. And it's time for these things to be exposed for what they are. And it's time for these systems to come down. All of them. All of these societies, it is time for them to come down. Because Yah's people are waking up. And there's only one nation. One Israel. One true Israel. And when Yah gathers his people, when he brings his people finally together, there's not going to be little certain societies and secret groups or, high society groups that are based on income, that are based on the hue of your skin. There's not going to be any of that. So this is the time now that we are going to it's time for this stuff to be exposed and discussed, and not only discussed, but it's time for it to come down. All right. So you see the title in front of you. It says Black Gatekeepers, the Links Inc. Linking the black community to what? What are they linking us to? So as we get into this, let's start off with a little history in case people aren't familiar with them. So let's talk about it. History overview. The Links Incorporated is an international not-for-profit corporation established in 1946. The membership consists of over 15,000 professional women of color in 288 chapters located in 42 states, the District of Columbia, and the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and the United Kingdom. Now, those numbers may vary because I got this, I think, actually from their website, and who knows how long ago that was written. So anyway, it is one of the nation's oldest and largest volunteer service organizations of extraordinary women who are committed to enriching, sustaining, and ensuring the culture and economic survival of African Americans and other persons of African ancestry. Our core values are friendship, integrity, honesty, service, commitment, family relationships, and courage, or rather courage, respect for self and others, legacy, confidentiality, responsibility, and accountability. Well, that's a lot. The members of the Links Incorporated are influential decision makers and opinion leaders. Now, I want you to focus on that, okay? Let me just read that again, because that is going to be the theme of everything that we're going to be talking about today. The members of the Links Incorporated are influential decision makers and opinion leaders. The Links Incorporated has attracted many distinguished women who are individual achievers and have made a difference in their communities and the world. They are business and civic leaders, role models, mentors, activists, and volunteers who work towards a common vision by engaging like-minded organizations and individuals for partnership. Links members contribute more than 1 million documented hours of community service annually, strengthening their communities and enhancing the nation. The organization is the recipient of awards from the UN Association of New York and the Leon H. Sullivan Foundation for its premier programs. The outstanding programming of the Links Incorporated has 5 facets, which include services to youth, the arts, national trends and services, international trends and services, and health and human services. The programs are implemented through strategies such as public information and education, economic development, and public policy campaigns. Now, again, that's a whole mouthful, but they pretty much stick to that, what they're saying. But, you know, there's a lot of air quotes in that, okay? And I'll explain on that, because they do stick to that. And so far, when you read it, it sounds all on the up and up, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, let's continue. Then let's learn a little bit about the founders. On the evening of November 9th, 1946, Margaret Roselle Hawkins and Sarah Strickland Scott, 2 young Philadelphia visionaries, invited 7 of their friends to join them in organizing a new type of intercity club. The organizing meeting of the Links was not a spontaneous action. In 1945, Link Hawkins had conceived the idea of a group of clubs composed of friends along the Eastern Seaboard and had spent many hours with Link Scott in thinking, planning, and discussing the possibilities of such an endeavor. The 2 women envisioned an organization that would respond to the needs and aspirations of black women in ways that existing clubs did not. It was their intent. The club would have a 3-fold aim: civic, education, and cultural. Based on these aims, the club would implement programs which its founders hoped would foster cultural appreciation through the arts, develop richer intergroup relations, and help women who participated to understand and accept their social and civic responsibilities. Besides the 2 founders, the original members of the Philadelphia Club were Links, Frank, and then it goes down the list of all the other people. And that's all these other names here are other people here pictured here in this. Okay, so that's who they're talking about. So during that time, you know, you had social groups that were created. I mean, that were around. You know, you had men. You know, of course, the men. You know, white men, they had their own private clubs. Then you had white women, they had their private clubs. Well, white folk or black people, they did the same thing. We said, okay, well, we're going to create our own. And so what do? We not only did we try to mimic, we try to mimic in every possible way that we could, including having these clubs where, you know, the brown paper bag test. You know, you had to be unless you were lighter. If you were lighter than the brown paper bag, then you were accepted. So, I mean, they use some form of that when you look at the original members. I mean, it's right there. That's how they started with that. And as you look at the membership today, you'll still see some strains of that as well. I mean, it's a little bit more than what you see. Anyway, so, but yeah, so that's what they did. So they created their own club. And, you know, like any other organization, it evolved over time. All right, so now we're modern day. We're looking at Dr. Kimberly Jefferies. She is actually now the new president, if you will, of this organization. So let's learn a little bit about her. Following in the footsteps of her mother, Dr. Mary J. Jefferies of the Fayetteville, North Carolina chapter, Dr. Jefferies Leonard joined the Links in 1996 and is a member of the Arlington, Virginia chapter. She's a graduate of the organization's prestigious Scott Hawkins Leadership Institute and has served the links in positions of increasing responsibility, most recently as its national vice president. Dr. Jeffries Leonard possesses a wealth of professional experience in the healthcare arena, including expertise in minority health and behavioral health programs, policies, and legislation. She served as Deputy Director of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Center for Substance Abuse Treatment at the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. She was also Chief Operating Officer of the District of Columbia's Department of Health. Dr. Jeffries Leonard currently serves as President and CEO of Envision Consulting, LLC in Washington, D.C., and is the chairperson of the District of Columbia's Commission on African American Affairs. A graduate of Fayetteville State University, Dr. Jeffries Leonard earned a doctorate in philosophy degree in psychology from Howard University and his Master of Science degree from North Carolina Central University. She's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Inc., the Washington, D.C. chapter of Jack and Jill of America, and the Black Women's Agenda, Incorporated. Okay, then you skip down the article a little bit. This is pulled right from her bio. As gatekeepers of justice and our communities, that's her quote, not mine, we are in a season like no other. Jeffries Leonard says in her acceptance remark, I am honored to serve as the 17th president of the Links Incorporated, and I look forward to inspiring our members as we step forward boldly and strategically on the issues we address, the battles we fight, and the way we use our voices. Okay? So that's who she is. She said that, she underscored the fact that they are, in fact, the gatekeepers. This isn't just something I'm made up. That's what they say they are. They are, in fact, gatekeepers of justice in their communities. Who are their communities? Black folks. All right? So I found this this is the qualifications, if you will. It's quite lengthy, but we'll get through it, on how to join. Is this an organization you can just, hey, click the button, join, pay your fee, and just go right in? No, it's actually a little bit more involved than that. And not everybody gets in. All right, so let's continue. Membership qualifications, Article 3, members. Section 1, membership of this chapter shall consist, and this chapter I pulled this from the Delaware chapter. They had their slides up or whatever, and I was able to get this. Membership of this chapter shall consist of women duly inducted who are residents of this locality. And then I'll just read that. See definition of locality, national bylaws. The chapter is established to serve. Chapter shall be sanctioned for violation of this section. I'll just skip that. Let's see. Section 2. Members shall be accorded rights and privileges in the Links Incorporated according to their classification of membership. These include voting, holding office, and participation in the activities of the National Assembly and area conference and local chapters. Section 3. New members, and this is for new members. Membership in the Links Incorporated is by invitation and application. Women invited to membership should have the following qualifications. Number 1. Residents in the community which the chapter was established to serve. Makes sense to me. Number 2, active involvement in educational, civic, and intercultural community activities. Number 3, ability to serve actively in support of the program of the Links organization. Let's see. Number 4, willingness to assume the financial responsibilities of the organization. And 5, skills and talents that will contribute to the vitality of the chapter. To facilitate the membership process, the chapter shall secure from the national headquarters the appropriate membership forms and procedures via the website. Candidates for membership must be recommended by an active member or members in good standing in their respective chapter. The sponsoring member may only submit one profile for a prospective member during an intake period, except for daughters of Links who may apply for membership. So they have almost like a separate path, if you will, for people who are part of this organization and they have daughters. So they have like a slightly little different path that they take. So when you see DOL, that's when they're talking about daughters of links. Okay. Let me see. Before a candidate can be considered for membership, the sponsoring members must complete the prospective member's profile. Okay, so the sponsoring member, they got to fill it out. They got to fill out the profile. Except for daughters of links, who shall complete the online profile form. Upon acceptance to membership, the candidacy for membership in chapters shall be completed by the chapter's membership chairperson and president and submitted online to the area director. Candidacy for membership in chapters for all new members, including daughters, may be requested from national headquarters. The form may not be duplicated. Voting on candidacy may occur at any regular chapter meeting between September and May. Now, I know all this is like run-of-the-mill kind of sounding stuff. It is, for the most part. But there's some key things that I do want to focus on, and you'll see in front of you. I have it bolded, okay? New members shall be elected by 2/3 affirmative vote of active members of the chapter who are presenting and voting. So you got to be voted in, okay? Except for daughters of links, who shall be elected by majority vote of members present and voting. Absentee voting is prohibited. Candidates receiving the required affirmative vote shall be extended a written invitation to membership. The invitation shall inform candidates of all financial responsibilities. Let's talk about that. Each new member shall pay a joining fee plus national dues and assessments for a current year and a capital endowment fee, a program endowment fee, and a technology fee. So there are financial barriers, if you will, or filters, if you will. So even if you do get accepted, you still got to pony up a great deal of money. I mean, all these different fees, make no mistake about it. As we go through the list here, you're going to see that, you know, it's probably not $2-3, okay, per fee. You know, it's going to be a lot more than that. Okay, so let's continue. I'll just skip that. Okay, membership processing with national headquarters and the induction of the new members shall follow the bylaws, articles, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you got the point here. So just to recap again, you can't just join, click a button, and boom, you're in, pay your money, that's it. You got to be selected. Someone has to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, listen, I think you'll be a good fit for our organization. And then they have to fill out your paperwork. You fill out your part. Then that application goes before a body where they have to vote you in. And then once you're voted in, now you got to pay all these kind of fees to prove that you can roll with the big dog, so to speak. All right? So you got that. All right, so questions. Here's some questions. Here's some key points I think worth making at this point. Now, like I said, there's nothing wrong with black women coming together to help improve their communities. I mean, there's nothing wrong. Everything we've kind of read up to this point, there's nothing kind of conspiracy about it or, just kind of off and satanic and all that. There's nothing in that. I mean, this is kind of run-of-the-mill, what you'll find in most similar organizations like that. They're going to have a process. They're going to have all that stuff. So there's nothing wrong with that. So nobody at all. So if anybody tries to want to make that, oh, you're just saying this because there's a bunch of black women get together and I'm tired of black men. Oh, no, nobody's coming down on that. I'm saying there's nothing wrong with that, just on paper, that is. Anyways, next point. What is the overall value system of the organization? Do these values benefit the whole? Now, we read a whole list. Remember I was saying earlier, let me go back here. I'm not going to read all this stuff here. I think it was actually here. Our core values are friendship, integrity, honesty, service, commitment, family, relationship, courage, respect for self and others, legacy, confidentiality, responsibility, accountability. It's a whole mouthful there. But what you're going to find is that many of these people, a great number of them, the ones we're going to cover today, they're pro-abortion. Now, I'm going to let you know off the bat, abortion is not something that benefits the community. Okay, black folks. We know, many of us who are listening to this right now, you know that that whole industry, if you will, was founded with the intent of eliminating us as a people. That's what it was about. Research the founder of it, Margaret Sanger, the Negro Project. In fact, Margaret Sanger, she used to partner with community leaders, women leaders, black women that is, in order to push this agenda of self-eliminating ourselves or abortion. So it's, so you'll find that a lot of these people that are part of this organization are partnered with this. They're proud supporters of Planned Parenthood. So what we just read earlier, all the different values and stuff like that. But when you start moving your hand and try to clear out the weeds a little bit, and you start seeing some of the things these people actually stand for, it sounds good what they said on the front end, but when you start getting through the details, it doesn't really help us. You know what I'm saying? We're killing each other off, and they're okay with that. LGBT, we're going to talk about that. Many of them are fully on board with the LGBT agenda. Many of their members are. They have no problem with that. They have no problem in equating what we as a people have gone through from slavery on up with the quote unquote struggles, if you will, of LGBT, with the people who are part of the LGBT movement. They don't see any difference in that at all. Is that a value that benefits us as a people? No, it doesn't. But they partner with it. Next point, committed to each other first. Well, like I said in the last video and other videos, these organizations, what you have to understand is when they take their oaths, and I'm not familiar with, do they have any kind of oath that they take when they become members? I'm sure it's something that they do or whatever, but all of this process, what you're doing, and I'm going to show you something right from their own website. It's going to be a few slides down. You're going to see that at the end of the day, this organization, like all other organizations, rather it be any of the Divine Nine, the Black Greek letter organizations, when they take those oaths, when they make these kind of commitments, those commitments aren't to us as so-called black people first. It's not. Those commitments that they make are to each other. And see, that's where the misinterpretation comes from, because we see an organization like this, like the Links or whatever, and we see a bunch of strong, black, powerful women, and we assume, hey, they're all for us. And to a measure, they are. But to a greater measure, they're not. They're for each other. That's the purpose of these organizations, so that they can get the benefit first and you become secondary. That's all these organizations. That's how they work. That's how they're established. And then I said, in the last question, I said, what about other women? We heard about how this organization is set up to, to benefit the women, these members, that are part of this organization. But what about other upstanding, positive, so-called black women in our communities that are doing the work, but they don't get accepted? Well, we're going to talk about that, because I actually have two diagrams that I created to kind of really drive home what I really mean by that, so you can get an idea of what the impact is of these organizations on our community. We're just peeling back the layers, okay? So what you see on the left is basically a representation of the Links, okay? But like I said, this can be applicable to any Black Greek letter organization, Masonic organization, what have you. But for the sake of the argument, we're talking about the Links in this presentation. So here you got power, you got the money, so you got economic resource, and then you got regular resources. When you become a part of this organization, you are part of a network, a national or international network, where you can freely share these resources. And like I said, as you go through, these aren't just some run-of-the-mill people that are part of this organization. These are very high-profile people that have a lot of influence, and a lot of access to resources. So they get to share in all of that and pass that along amongst themselves. Okay? Now, to the right, these represent all the other black women who aren't part of the organization. and I wrote some notes down here. I said, these women are left out of the wealth resource pool simply because they were not elected or selected to be a part. So these women here, and I followed up with, I said, small business owners, etc., in search of resources. You can add that as well. So this whole population here, we ain't talking about homeless. We're not talking about women out there who are in extreme cases, or just maybe some women out there who aren't doing anything. They're not trying to be productive. I'm not talking about that, okay? Because even that's being general if you try to put everybody in that boat, because you got a lot of hard working black women out there who are doing the things, who are on the grind day in and day out. They could be much further along than where they are right now if they had access to this right here. But because they don't have access to this, they're grinding just like everyone else. Okay? Let me hear the community. Okay, I'll get to that point. So let me elaborate this a little bit more. A lot of these women here, what you're going to find, actually employ these women over here to the right, black women. And so they can say, they here on the left, they can say, hey, well, listen, we provide jobs to other black women. That's what we do. This is our service. This is how we give back. We provide jobs to some of these other women that are out here. Yeah, you do. But what if a woman out there, let's say, has a good product, they're starting their own business, they can be much further along than where they are right now. You have access to the resources to get them further ahead, but because they're not part of your organization, you refuse it. How does that help the whole from an economic standpoint? It doesn't. Do you understand what I'm saying? And again, we're talking about the links here, but you could take this template, if you will, and apply it to all of these other organizations that operate the same way. So you got, it could be medical resources. It could be education. Let's say you got a young woman over here to the right who worked very, very hard. I mean, they kicked behind in high school, worked very hard, and perhaps they need that extra, if you will, the extra nudge with the college president, with admissions. And some of these people, you'll find, one thing about the links, you got a lot of members who are part of the educational system. Let's say, for example, my daughter was trying to get accepted at a school. Got good grades, done everything she can do, but this school, however, they're like, I don't know, and schools do this. They look at your family and they look at all that kind of stuff. And they just say, you know what, I'm sorry, it just ain't going to work. Now, what if my wife was a part of this organization? Then what she could do is pick up the phone, call her link sister who knows somebody who works in college administration and say, hey, listen, I got my daughter, man, she's trying to get into this school. They're trying to reject her. Can you help out? Yeah, I'll pull some strings. And they go ahead and do it. Next thing you know, things happen, things go into motion, and ta-da, now my daughter's able to get into school. That's how that works. Okay? But but my wife, who's not part of this organization, she wouldn't have that option to make a phone call to anybody. She's got to go through the line just like everyone else. So how fair is that? Especially when you have a young girl who has worked very hard, never been in trouble, none of that. But you take care of your own at the end of the day. That's how this system works. You're taking care of your own at the end of the day. And all these other women, let's say trying to get a loan. Let's say you're trying to get a loan. Because you'll find a lot of these women, too, they work in banking. We're going to cover one in particular. They work in banking. If I'm a Links member, I have a better opportunity to secure a loan if I know a Links member who works in that department at the bank. You understand what I'm saying? But if I'm not a Links member, I'm just like everyone else. So again, how does that help the whole? It doesn't. So you can say all you want. Hey, we work for the community. No, you don't. You work for your community. All right. And then the last point I got down here, I said community handouts only keep these women and their families at bay. So as you'll know, if you go through their website and you just do a searching on it, go on YouTube, you'll see they're doing a lot of things for the community. They're feeding the homeless. They do after-school programs. They're involved in a number of other social programs that are all very good. But do they advance? Do they help advance the people that they're claiming to serve? Do they advance them? Or do they keep them in a state of status quo? Because if I'm a member of this organization, make no mistake about it, you're moving up. With all the connections and stuff you're making, you got a lot more resources, a lot more options at your disposal that will give you more opportunities to move up, to move ahead, and be successful than these women over here. And keep in mind, they're the ones that create this wall. They created that. Okay? Let's get to the next one. This is another one I created. Now, what do they really offer at the end of the day to those women that we saw that was on the right-hand side of the previous diagram? They offer influence. So they use their platform. Because I think I can't remember which one it was. Let me go back here. Never mind. I'll just go back. But basically, someone I read previously, they talked about how they are women of great influence, and they are. So they use their influence to sway the general population that they say they serve one direction or another. Now, if you're part of this organization, and you have great influence over all of these people here, you naturally are going to sway them in a direction that at the end of the day is going to benefit you more so than the individuals. And you want it that way. That's why your organization is set up in a way where you got all those filters. Because you don't want all these people to move ahead. We can talk all we want that, hey, we want all of our people to move ahead, but they clearly don't. What they want to be is set up and established in a position where they just provide you influence and they can sway you. That's why do you think these organizations spend so much time pushing, doing voter drives? Think about that for a second. I'm going to revisit that question I gave you. Why do you think these organizations spend so much time in saying we're going to do a voting drive? We're going to do another voting drive. Every time I turn around, I'm like, out of all the communities, different people groups out there, black folks, we have the most voter drives than I think anyone. So why is that? Well, we're going to talk more about that. But anyway, so I just want to make sure you get this, you understand this, both from the economic standpoint, what I just talked about, and what they actually bring to the table for the rest of these people. What they do bring is influence. So regardless if it's an issue, let's say women's rights, if it's an issue, you maybe something political, maybe something, a social issue or whatever, these individuals will use their influence to sway the general population. And like I said, make no mistake about it, they're going to sway them in a direction that's ultimately going to help them in their own networks. That's how that works. Okay, next point. A look at some of the links, gatekeepers / influencers, because, there's a gatekeeper, influence. I think that both of these people, I think they both conflate. They both operate, side by side. You can be a gatekeeper and an influencer in this particular case. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So we all know about Kamala Harris. I know she's been coming up a lot, huh? Well, she's a member of this organization. Let's go ahead and read. This quote here was not from her. It was from the president. Her last name is Harris as well. Okay, and so it's not, when it says Harris, it's talking about her, not talking about Kamala Harris. Okay, so let me go ahead and read this. Offering similar comments, President Harris stressed the enduring impact of the links, which was established in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1946, and now boasts 285 chapters located in 41 states, Washington, D.C., and the Bahamas collectively. The membership has contributed more than 2 million volunteer service hours in the past 3 years. We are no longer the organization that just tutors after school. We are involved in a lot of things, explained Dr. Harris, who cited the Link's current campaigns focused on mental health, education, and awareness, hepatitis C and HIV education and awareness, Black Lives Matter, and eliminating human trafficking. We are getting into the deep water, really getting into the community and really working with a different population now, where everybody doesn't have all of the benefits, and it's tougher to get jobs and to purchase homes, and you just can't make it on the minimum wage, says Dr. Harris. Well, let's take a look at what she said there about some of these things that they're involved in. So I went to their website, and you'll see this was under their initiatives or whatever that they're part of. I'm not going to read all of this stuff, but there's some things I do want to highlight here. All right, so National Breast Health Initiative. I'm going to read 2 of these blurbs here, and then I'll just highlight some of the things I want to highlight, okay? National Breast Health Initiative educates the Links membership and the communities we serve about the importance of knowing one's family history and the risk factors for breast cancer. Our goal encompasses advocacy and personal health record retention to ensure proper health care maintenance. We strive to provide mentoring, encouragement, and a safe haven for all to share personal journeys. Okay, let me skip down to this one. The Heart Links to Heart Health Signature Program encourages Links members and the communities to take an aggressive stance against heart disease and #1 killer of African American women. Heart Links accomplished its goal by equipping Links chapters with numerous ways to implement heart healthy activities in the communities, including a Walk for a Healthy Living, red dress events, and cardiovascular risk reduction programs. So you're going to go through all this, and it's run of the mill. I mean, it doesn't sound like anything out of, I mean, when you say you're partnering with somebody, that means basically there was something that was already existing. Okay, this isn't something that these aren't programs that they created from the ground up. They're just saying, hey, listen, we're just lending our support to it. So it's nothing really unique that they're doing here. But the one thing as I was going through this that really stuck out to me is the constant mentioning of Link members first. So like what I just read, the National Breast Health Initiative, it says educate the Link memberships. Then I read here in the Heart Links, it says encourages Link members and communities. And then this one, the National HIV, AIDS, and Hepatitis C Initiative encourages that Links members and the communities and national health. I mean, it goes down. See, one thing you got to always do is you pay attention to language and how people use it. What they're saying in all this is basically they're going to put their members' priority above all these issues at the end of the day. That's intentional. Okay? So, yeah, they say, we're going to take care of our members. And, yeah, we'll take care of the community first. So their priority, first and foremost, is their members, who, by the way, got to be elected to come in. Okay? And you got to pay all that money. Okay? So this is how these organizations work. They put their members above the people. The people. That's how it works. Okay, so now we're going to get into some of the members. Many of these you do know, and there's maybe a couple on this list that you might not know. Okay, so we're going to get into that right now. Okay, Angela Rye, she's a member. Okay, she served and there's a reason why I'm using this picture here, by the way. She served as the executive director and general counsel of the Congressional Black Caucus for the 112th Congress. She worked in district office of Congresswoman Maxine Waters. You're going to see a trend here. Rye is one of the few recurring guests on widely popular mainstream radio station, The Breakfast Club. And then the last one, Angela defended Leonard Larry McKelv. Who's that? Oh, yeah, that's Charlemagne. And I ain't going to call him no guy because he ain't. Against rape allegations. Leonard then goes on CNN to defend Kamala. So let me just break that down a little bit. So this is kind of more really current events. So basically, a while back, Charlemagne, he had gotten, or Leonard, it was some rape allegations from back in the day or whatever that came back up. It was all part of this whole Me Too thing. And, he was fighting it, and Angela Rye came and stepped in and basically defended him. And so amongst, against all the critics. But then it's interesting that fast forward to today or yesterday, I think at the time of this recording, you have, and by the way, she was a part of I'm not going to say like a permanent part of their morning crew staff, but she was a regular that appeared on there. So there was a relationship that was there. And so the Breakfast Club just had Kamala Harris on there and basically threw a whole bunch of softball questions to her as expected. I mean, do you expect them to do a hard-hitting interview? Of course not, especially when it comes to politics. So that's them. But anyway, they had Kamala Harris on there. She goes on there and talks about how she used to kick it with marijuana. Here we go again. This is how you sell yourself to black folks. Talk about how much marijuana you used to smoke and what hip-hop artists used to listen to. Meanwhile, you having $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 plate meals with Jews and all these other groups and talking real business. But anyway, we won't touch on that. But anyway, she got on there, and one of the mistakes she made was they asked her a question. They said, hey, listen, who did you used to listen to when you was in college? And she said, I used to listen to Tupac and name someone else. Well, come to find out, Tupac wasn't even around. His career wasn't even launched while she was in college. So that caused a huge uproar. People pointed that out. They were like, see, here you go. She's lying again. So all of a sudden, what's so weird, Leonard and DJ Envy get on CNN. I'm like, whoa, how y'all jump to CNN? They got on CNN and was like, no, defending Kamala Harris and saying, no, what she was actually doing was answering another question that was asked to her. No, that's what it, see, and this is a Fox News thing. See, Fox News, no. So, but you see how they try to throw that, the Fox News versus CNN, all that stuff. No, it wasn't Fox News. Fox News, who reported on that, basically was reacting to what was already being discussed on social media. People on social media caught that and was talking about it. Fox News picked it up because, of course, CNN ain't going to talk about it because if you look at her biggest supporter financially, guess who's her biggest supporter? Warner, who owns CNN. So they wanted to protect their investment by having DJ Envy and Leonard or Charlemagne on there and said, look, we need you to clean this up. And that's exactly what happened. And plus the fact that, just by coincidence, Angela Rye works for CNN too. So you see how this networking stuff works? You see how it works? She defends him in the past and she basically was like, listen, I scratch your back. Time for you to do us a favor. Now, it may not going down exactly like that, but my point is that these circles are very close for a reason. And it was laughable, the interview even, the reaction on it was like, okay, people just rolling their eyes. Because it was like, here you got a guy, Charlemagne and DJ Envy and them, they have a show where they, no holds barred, they call people out left and right. But when it comes to this, he up here trying to clean. It's like, no, bro, you give yourself a donkey for the day on that. That's just ridiculous. But anyways, Angela Rye, I talked about that, but Angela Rye, she is an avid defender of Kamala Harris. And she's even called people who have, really challenging her on her record as like we all should be doing when it comes to politicians. She was calling them Russian bots. And saying that, these aren't real people and calling them, cussing them out. It's a video. I was going to put it in here, but it was a video. I actually showed that video on a previous video I did where she was at the airport or whatever. and she was basically calling out the ADOS movement and all this stuff and saying, calling them dummies and all this other stuff. I was like, whoa. I mean, you could tell they really got to her. But people are now beginning to question all of these politicians who always, the only way they pitch themselves when it comes to black folks is they talk about how much marijuana they drank or how they used their favorite chicken place or their favorite dance and their favorite artists and all that kind of stuff. But, and black folks now are awakening and saying, nah, we're done with that. No, we're not taking that anymore. Let's look at your policies. Let's look at what you have done. Let's look at your record. And people like Angela Rye, who's an AKA, who else is an AKA? Well, Kamala Harris, she's also an AKA. Oh, and guess what? They're both part of the links. So do you think that Angela Rye is going to get up there and really be have a non-biased approach when it comes to Kamala Harris? Of course not, because they have taken an oath to each other. So everything that comes out of this girl's mouth, this woman's mouth, when it comes to Kamala Harris, is based off of the covenant that she has taken with Kamala Harris. Twice. Not once, but twice. And so keep your eye on her. She's going to be an avid defender. And every now and then she may say, well, she may throw a little kind of criticism there. But make no mistake about it, they're marching to the same beat. Okay? That's how this works. So Angela Rye is one. Simone Sanders is another one. She's also part of the links. Okay, so let's read a little bit about her. Served as National Press Secretary for Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders. Again, watch the trends. You're going to notice they have this proclivity to one party, the Democrats. She's a Democrat strategist and political commentator for CNN, on CNN. And so, the guy, I forgot his full name, Luke. I can't think of his full name. I'm not calling nobody no Uncle Luke, but basically, I'm quoting what she said. Because this guy, Luke, who was back in the day, he had his own group called 2 Live Crew. And, they were raunchy back in that day. I mean, but shoot, they're nothing in comparison to what you see today. But back in the day, it was a rap group that came out of the Miami area, and they were very raunchy and all that. But since then, he's become very active locally. He does things to help single dads, and he helps the young men in his community and stuff like that. So he's, as you get older, you begin to start doing things. For some people, at least, they begin to put away the childish stuff and start doing some more mature things. So apparently, he's one of those people. So the Miami Herald basically asked him for his take on Kamala Harris. And he said basically she's not going to get the black vote. And part of the reason he gave was because of the fact of her record. And all he's doing is looking at her record. He didn't say anything, as far as I know, oh, this is a black woman and, these black women need to sit down and stay home and have children. It was none of that. He was looking at her record. And what was Simone Sanders' response to that? Uncle Luke is no political mastermind or strategist, she tweeted. Why do black men keep popping up with their unsolicited opinions about Kamala Harris? Now she caught a lot of heat on that. Not so much of her criticism towards Luke, but it was the fact that she generalized and said black men. Why do black men keep popping up with their unsolicited opinions? Another trend, another thing you're going to see amongst all these individuals, and particularly the links organizations, is that they are feminist. Okay? They are feminists. And feminism, we've talked about that on this channel as well. When you look at the history of feminism, where it was birthed out of basically the CIA started this. This is no conspiracy theory. Look up Gloria Steinem. She was a paid CIA agent. It's on YouTube unless they took it down. And she's admitting to that. And her responsibility was to start or to rekindle, if you will, the feminism movement in the 60s. And what she did was she began to partner with black writers. It was one writer in particular, and her name is not coming to mind, but she got her to write an article in Miss Magazine. And Miss Magazine, basically, they used that. And in this article that this black woman wrote, again, it was putting down black men and all this other stuff. And so that was like the kindling, if you will, for this black feminist movement.
Magazine. The book was written by a black feminist and activist named Michelle Wallace, who came out of nowhere. Wallace was in her early 20s at the time, yet she was being touted as the leader of black feminism. In the book, Wallace called abolitionists like Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth ugly and stupid for supporting black men. She called black revolutionaries chauvinist macho pigs and advised black women to go it alone. Gloria Steinem said that Wallace's book would define the future of black relationships, and she pushed hard to make sure the book received massive publicity. Gloria Steinem's work triggered a flood of identified and targeted Alice Walker in the early 1960s. She befriended Alice Walker and paid for Alice Walker to come to the CIA-manipulated student festival in Vienna. Alice Walker would later become the foremost writer of anti-black male hate books, all of which were funded by money funneled to her publishers by the CIA. Steinem has boasted an interview.
And it just has snowballed since then. So now people like Simone Sanders and all these other women that were coming, they're all parts of that. They're all children of that whole movement. So anyway, I've already done a whole video on that, but I don't want to redo the video here. But the fact of the matter is that Simone Sanders, basically, when she made that statement, people caught that. So basically, it slipped out. And she caught, and rightfully so, she caught a lot of heat for saying that, generalizing all black men. So you're basically saying that as black men, we don't have an opinion on this matter? So anyway, so that was her on that. All right, so pay attention to the narratives. As we go through this, now, a lot of these people, I'm not going to go through their whole bios, but I want you to pay attention to the narratives, okay? And I posted this here just as an example, okay? Simone has been featured on NPR, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, ABC, BT, and has been profiled in the Washington Post, Essence Magazine, Black Enterprise, Cosmopolitan, and Elle. In 2013, Simone Sanders was honored as the youngest recipient to ever receive the Midlands Business Journal 40 Under 40 Award. Most recently, she was honored by Fusion as one of the 30 women under 30 who will influence the 2016 elections, named one of the 16 young Americans shaping the 2016 election by Rolling Stone, and one of the most influential African Americans of 2016 by The Root. Now, the reason why I'm saying pay attention to the trends, look at all these different media outlets. And I want you to just reflect real quick on some of the common things that they push. The feminism, abortion. We talked about that. The LGBT. These are things that and so when you see people like Simone Sanders or Angela Rye boasting on the fact that they received awards or accolades from all these different media outlets, or they've appeared on all these media outlets, the reason why they're on all those outlets is because they support the narrative. And that narrative, more often than not, is damaging to us as a people. You understand what I'm saying? So that's not really something to be proud of when you got all of these accolades from all these media outlets. That just simply means that you're a player. You're part of the narrative. And when you listen to what these women say, they're just spouting out the narrative. And then when you got people out here who are just they're not name calling. They're just simply questioning someone's record. These same people it's like they turn a whole nother into like the Hulk. And I know these are Russian bots. No, you can't say that. And get all mad. Why? We're going to answer that why in a moment or later on in this presentation. But there's a particular reason why they get that angry like that at people who are simply asking questions. And these are the same people who are out here saying, well, the reason why, they're questioning her like that is, here we go again. They're questioning her blackness. Nobody's questioning her blackness, even though she's the one, Kamala Harris, is the one that's got out here. In her book, she calls herself black. Then when she gets in an interview, she's a woman of color. They play all sides on this whole color issue. But you look at the record. The record is what counts. Okay? But these are cheerleaders, and they're cheerleaders for a purpose because they are in the same organization, the Lynx. Okay, April Ryan, this is another one. Now, April Ryan, she's just a part of the old guard, quite honestly. But she's successful. That don't mean she's not successful. She's done a lot. But what I found interesting was her exchange with Don Lemon defending Kamala Harris, against critics. And again, she's another one that got out here, and she was stuttering and sputtering and all this stuff, trying to defend Kamala Harris and like, well, you don't understand. These people, what they're doing there, they're questioning her blackness. And I'm so sick and tired. It says black women, we've been through a lot and all this other stuff. And it's the same script that Simone Sanders was reading off of. It's the same script that's coming from Angela Rye. They read from the same script. And they are sworn to protect this woman. That's what they are. So their opinions that they give, the opinions that they put out there, they sway the people that follow them. And this is just from their Facebook page. You can see her. She was at a couple of Lynx events. Congratulations to Baltimore, Maryland chapter, the Lynx Incorporated chapter member April Ryan on her nomination as Female Alumna Member of the Year by HBCU Digest. And so, she's an active member of this organization. So again, while I'm going through this, are there values in alignment with the progress, if you will, of us collectively as a people, or does it just mainly benefit them? Stephanie Rawlings Blake. Now, this is just now some of these people I'm touching on now are people who, she's no longer a mayor. She's a former mayor of Baltimore, but these are people who, what I'm showing you, she's just one of many people who are part of this Lynx organization who are involved in politics to some measure. So Stephanie Rawlings Blake, like I said, she's a former mayor of Baltimore. She's now, I read someplace, she's an advisor to Airbnb. So I'm sure she was able to use her connections with the Lynx in order to get those positions. So going back to someone like this, if they were to lose their job, and let's say they are very qualified, are they able to connect with some of these people who have more pull? Or do they have to just fend for themselves just like the next person? That's no different than you got a bunch of, let's say if this is a black person, that's a white person, that's a white person, that's a black person. It's no different. It's like dog eat dog. But for them, they have the privilege and the resources to be able to help each other out when it comes to this stuff. So, that's her, she, this was back in 2016. She had the gavel in the Democratic National Convention. Again, these people are aligned with the Democratic Party. They're aligned with it. Okay, so that's her. Here's another one. Now, Vashti Murphy McKenzie. Okay, Vashti Murphy McKenzie is a bishop of the African or AME, a Methodist Episcopal Church. McKenzie is the first female elected as bishop in the denomination's history. She is also the national chaplain of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and the granddaughter of Delta founder Vashti Turley Murphy. Bishop McKenzie is married to retired NBA player Stan McKenzie and is the mother of John Mikal, Vashti Jasmine, and Joy Marie. And another thing these women like doing, they like using these hyphenated last names. Again, that's all rooted in feminism. It's all rooted in feminism when you got women like this using these hyphenated last names. But this is a person that has great influence, this time in the church system. I know we said we're going to talk about, we're mainly sticking with politics, but some of these are just a few exceptions to that. But she's very influential, at least in that denomination. And also, I'm sure on national issues as well, anytime you need the team of clergy, black clergy to come up like they just did with Northrop in Virginia, the governor. There's an article that was out. They said that leaders in the African American community say that they forgive the governor for his blackface stuff. And I'm like, okay, first of all, who are these black leaders? We're the only group of people out there that got leaders. How about the Asian leaders? How about the Jewish leaders? You never hear about them. The Italian leaders. You ever hear that? The leaders of the Italian community. You know, you never hear that. It's only us as a people. But she's got Delta Sigma Theta. We've talked about that. You know, there's a video I did that was called, you know, that these, I forgot the exact title of it, but basically it's not, you know, y'all can't use that. The Most High can't use that. I'm sorry. We talked about the history behind that and the spiritual connections and all that to it. Again, this is stuff that they say. This ain't what I'm putting in there. This is what they're saying. So again, that means she's in alignment with, as a minister of the Bible, this woman has no problem with aligning herself up with LGBT. She has no problem with aligning herself up with abortion. You know, you even got the governor of Virginia, like I said again, Northrop, who's okay with late-term abortion, meaning up to the point where the baby is about to be born. All of these people that I just mentioned have aligned themselves with a party that is okay with terminating or killing a child right at the point of them being born. They're okay with it. And this is the value system that they use when they want to influence the masses. This is part of their influence package, if you will. LGBT and being black is one and the same. It's okay if you're about to give birth and you want to terminate or kill your child. It's okay to do that. And the biggie with all of this is that they turn all of their solutions are always turning us as a people back to the government for the answer. That's what all their solutions, they all point to. There's nothing in there about self-sufficiency. There's nothing in there about doing for self. It's about going to the government and getting the help you need from the government. In the meantime, we're going to use our influence to keep you on that track while we are helping each other out in our own little private little meetings. Okay? Here's another one, Tamika Mallory. Now, she's, been a very controversial person with this whole Women's March organization and all this stuff. And basically, in a nutshell, she was part of this. She still is part of this organization. She's been getting a lot of flack from particularly conservative media and whites, also even on the left for that matter, because of her association with Louis Farrakhan. And, they always like trolling out Louis Farrakhan anytime something about Jews is mentioned. They like trolling him out. And if you shook his hand one time, now all of a sudden you're a Louis Farrakhanite, whatever. But, she stood strong and said, hey, listen, and let me back up. She's kind of waffled a little bit since then. She's been, she hasn't said I denounce him because that's what they're trying to get her to say. But she said some things, because I've seen her in some other recent interviews where she's kind of been like, well, I don't necessarily agree with everything he says. And then she's also says, well, I'm very sensitive to anti-Semitism. I'm very sensitive to our, women out there who have experienced this and all this other stuff. So she's used some she's got some good training in how to use words to kind of dance around that. So anyway, let's read what I got here. Her parents were founding members and activists of Al Sharpton's National Action Network, who again is closely tied to the Democratic Party. The Women's March idea formed after the election of Donald Trump. Her grandmother in Hawaii, Teresa Shook, created a Facebook event for a march in Washington, D.C. following the inauguration. Meanwhile, Bob Bland, a mother living in New York City, also created an event. Within a single day, hundreds and thousands of individuals were attending the march, a Facebook event. The surge of individuals interested was a catalyst for the organizing that led to the 2017 Women's March. Bland and Shook's event were merged into a single event. Bland reached out to Mallory, Perez, and Saussure in order to include voices of color. See, again, these women feminists, y'all, they you think they're for our people. They're not. They're not. That was an afterthought. Anyway, so the march organizers sought to integrate many different leaders and voices in order to create a decentralized structure. The intention was to incorporate individuals from every walk of life. Mallory has said that while the march was in direct response to Trump's election, its larger concern was social problems in the United States. The march gave women, minorities, people of color, LGBTQIA, and others a space to voice their concern, fears, and feelings. Mallory explains that she took on this responsibility because she wanted to ensure that black women's voices are upheld, uplifted, and our issues are addressed. But this cannot happen unless we take a seat at the table. Mallory's work within the Women's March was geared towards creating space for unrepresented voices in social activism. She felt that previous marches had failed to recognize the intersectional, here we go with that word, aspects within social justice such as race, class, gender, nationality, and sexuality. According to Mallory, the organizers worked to make the march as inclusive as possible in order to support the most change. One of the largest supporters of the march was Planned Parenthood. Mallory explains that they partner with Planned Parenthood because they provide women with life-saving health services, which is a lie from the very, very pit of hell. But you see, they brought her on, they meaning this organization, not the links, but this Women's March thing. They brought her on to be the catch-all. In other words, we want you, not only, don't just say you're representing black women, but you're also representing the LGBTQIA and all that other stuff. You're representing them. You're representing all these other groups. So she was the catch-all. So I know I've heard her in interviews. She's a pretty sharp individual. But see, you got to be able to see beyond the rhetoric and see what these women are really about. And again, like I said, she's a member of the Links organization. And she represents and supports all these other narratives and equates them to blackness. That's what she does. She's saying it. I ain't me saying it. She's saying it. And she's backed by the Links. So the Link supports this. Just another example. All right, let's continue. I know I'm over an hour right now. I didn't realize that. Okay, let's continue. Erica Irish Brown. This is another one. Again, these are just random examples I pulled out, okay? She's the Chief Diversity Officer at Goldman Sachs, okay? This is an article. This is a clip from an article that I got from Diversity Inc. And you'll see below here, you'll see that, the Metro Manhattan chapter, they're giving a shout out to her because she was named the new chief to lead diversity efforts, okay? So let's go ahead and read this clip from Diversity Inc. In fact, a study by the United for a Fair Economy examining housing and racial bias found the subprime lending mess had caused the greatest loss of wealth to blacks and Latinos in modern U.S. history. During the past 8 years, black borrowers have lost between $72 billion and $93 billion from subprime loans, while Latino borrowers have lost between $76 and $98 billion during the same time period, according to the report. Goldman continues to profit handsomely from the subprime mortgage fallout. During the boom, Goldman Sachs bought thousands of subprime mortgages, many of them from some of the most toxic lenders in the business, and packaged them to high-yield bonds. In fact, Wall Street investment banks, including Goldman Sachs, were subprime mortgage lenders' single most important source of capital and therefore had a lot of power and influence in the subprime mortgage market, according to a report issued by the Center for Public Integrity. Again, that's from Diversity Inc. Now, this woman here, she was hired on as a chief diversity officer. So she's not really, so what are you doing to really address all of that? That's a lot of money. So what this company did, they said, listen, we need some black faces up in here because we've been getting a lot of heat for all this, what we did. literally overnight almost created a whole new generation of black economic slaves. They got a lot of heat for that, and rightfully so. But apparently not enough, because you had Obama, Bush, all they said these banks are too big to fail and we got to give them some money. And so part of the package, if you will, the PR package, and putting a nice face on all of that. Again, this is economic slavery we're talking about. They hire a chief diversity officer, as if that's going to do anything to address this stuff. But see, this organization, the Links, they take pride in, oh, look at where she is right now. You see, we got someone who's working for the big white massive banks. Okay, that's great, but what is that? How is that helping us? She's benefiting from it because she's getting a nice salary, she's getting the exposure and all that. The organization is benefiting from it because as a member, as an active member, she's paying those hefty dudes. You know, they're benefiting from it. But what about all the economic black slaves that these people created? What about that? Is any of this addressing any of that? The answer is no. There's only two people in this picture that are benefiting, and that's Erica Irish Brown and the Links. These are the only people that are benefiting from this. See what I'm saying? So let's look at this even closer. Because I said, let me take some time. Let me look at Goldman Sachs. They have this thing called their partner class. Okay, it's a partner program where they partner with other, let's see, representatives or other outside bankers or whatever. They have a partnership program, and this is from their own press release. I'll just read this, and this is last year, November the 7th. Today is an important day for our culture and our people as we welcome a new class of partnership. The talented group of individuals representing the best of Goldman Sachs will join our current partners in guiding, advising, and inspiring our people to action on behalf of our clients and our firm. The partner class of 2018 is smaller than in recent years, highlighting the aspirational nature of the partnership. In addition, we are pleased that this year's class includes the highest percentage of women and black partners in our history. Wow! We expect that each of these individuals will continue to serve as role models to our people in advancing Goldman Sachs franchise by providing superior client service, driving long-term shareholder returns, and demonstrating the highest level of dedication and integrity. You see, the machine keeps going. It's about bringing that more money in. These decisions are extremely difficult, and we acknowledge the hard work of those who were not selected this year. We are confident that many of them will be named partners in the future. Congratulations to the partner class of 2018. So these are all the numbers for their recent partner class of 2018. I want you to take notice of some things here. 26% of them were women. 20% of those women were Asian. 6% were black. 6%. We were the ones that were the most impacted by the subprime lending scandal or scheme to create more economic black slaves. 6%. Asians make a much smaller percentage of the population in this country, period. They get 20%. And then they do a breakdown here. Women, it was 17%. Let's see, diversity of partnering with new class. They said black, it was 2%. Hispanics, 2%. Asian, 15%. LGBT, 1%. Even LGBT gets put in there. We get 6%. But yet, you hired a chief diversity officer, and that somehow is going to address all of that. We ain't getting nothing out of that. That's not anything to be jumping for joy about unless you're part of the Links. All right, let's continue. We're almost finished here. I think I got a few more slides here. Judy Smith is an American crisis manager, lawyer, author, and television producer. She is known as the founder, president, and CEO of the crisis management firm Smith & Company. Her work in crisis management is the inspiration for the ABC television series Scandal. What was Scandal about, y'all? It was about a black woman, basically, that operated as the hoe, if you will, of the White House. That's basically what that was about. So she has helped and continues to help push that image out. She's getting helped by that. The Lynx is getting helped by that. But what about all the black women out here who's got to deal with that stigma? They're not being helped by that. Anyway, after her work for President Bush, Smith worked for NBC as Vice President of Communications, where she was responsible for news, sports, and entertainment shows. In 2009, Smith was introduced to Shonda Rhimes, the creator of the TV series Grey's Anatomy, and her partner Betsy Beers, a co-executive producer. That meeting was scheduled for less than a half an hour, but went on for more than 3, resulting in development of the political thriller television series Scandal, which is inspired by Smith's professional background in public relations and crisis management and work in Washington, D.C. As of 2012, Smith serves as co-executive producer and technical advisor for the show. So she's representing a whole range of people. She represented, what was the woman, Paula Dean, Paula Dean that was basically had a number of her employees saying that she was racist, and, said some very off-color things to say the least. And some other people she represented. I think she worked, I don't know if it was Bill Clinton or I forgot the girl that he was supposedly had sex with. I think she worked with her, I believe. And some other people, quite a few other people. She works for some black folks as well. But she's, from all, everything you read about her, I mean, she's very good at what she does. But the biggest thing was this, but what do the regular people do? What are the rest of the people getting from what she's doing? The influence. She's in a position of influence, and what is she putting out there? Scandal. A black woman operating as a hoe in the White House. That's what she puts out. That's what the rest of the people get. See how that works? Okay, then we got Stacey Abrams. Not really much to say about her. Only thing I can add is that Stacey Abrams, as you know, she was running for governor and that failed, and she's still on this never-ending, they stole the election and all that stuff. She's on that. We talked about her in a previous video. I talked about how Stacey Abrams, she is a supporter of Israel. She's taken several trips over there. And why is that significant? That's significant because Israel, as you know, trains many of the police departments here in the United States, the same police departments that we complain about that profile many of our black men out there and black women. She supports Israel for that. Now, she's kind of ducked and dive on that a little bit. You'll see some conflicting information out there, but for all intent and purposes, she does support Israel. She does. She's one of many out there who support Israel, just like Kamala Harris, just like Kamala Harris, just like Cory Booker. They support Israel. That's just one thing. And, of course, the whole abortion thing and LGBT and all that, they're on that same wagon. Again, do these policies benefit us as a people? No, they don't. But it benefits her. It benefits her organization. Now, here's Cory Booker. Wait a minute. He's a member of the Lynx? No, he's not a member of the Lynx. But let's read what the Lynx posted. Congratulations, Senator Cory Booker is the son of Miss Caroline Booker, a member of the Lynx Incorporated. So, membership has its privileges. So, not only the members get the benefit of the network, which is here, but also their children. In fact, we just read earlier, let me go back here. They have a whole branch for those who are, they said the daughters, but, it's the sons too. You can use some of that influence. If your mama's part of that, trust me, you can get some of that influence too. You don't have to be a member, but you can certainly get some of that influence. and look at the things that Cory Booker stands for. They're all the things we talked about. Okay, so this is the last slide here. And I'm going to close out with this. Remember, when your entire career is built on a political ideology, you will fight those that encourage people to think beyond the narrative. Why? Because your paycheck and your status depends on it. So all of these people here that we just went through, if you notice a common thread, they're all members of the Democratic Party or strongly support them. Again, this is no endorsement of the Republican Party. Please, nobody's thinking that at all. Okay, because the Republican Party got their own issues, and I made that clear many times on this channel. As far as us, those of us who embrace the fact that we're Hebrews, we don't vote. Period. We're out of that narrative. But many of these people here, they want you to stay within the narrative, because by staying in the narrative, that's how they get paid. That's how they get their more opportunities. That's how their upward mobility continues, by keeping you and making strong arguments to keep you within the narrative. And the narrative may not just be political. It may be social issues. When it comes to LGBT stuff. When it comes to women's rights, using that as a wedge issue, pitting our black men against our black women. Tweeting on things like the Jussie Smollett thing, the whole situation with that, tweeting on that, keeping you angry, keeping you in a perpetual state of anger, and being all directed by your anger and your emotions, so that they can steer you in the way that they want you to go. This is what these organizations do. It's all about influence. It's exercising their influence on you, while they are the ones that are able to maintain their own networks and profit greatly off of their own networks and their own connections. This is how it works. So that was my last slide. So we covered quite a bit. I didn't realize it was going to go this long, but I wanted to really lay all this stuff out so you can really see and understand. This is just the links, y'all. We're going to look at some of these other organizations that have been around for a very long time. Like I said on the cover, they sound like they do some good things. But listen to the patterns. Listen to the things that they say. Look at the things that they put out there. Don't get moved by the fact that, they handed out food on Thanksgiving. They help young girls with this and that and all this other stuff. All that sounds good. But, again, what you do is, in order to be effective, you do just enough to be convincing. But the bigger picture is making sure that you and yours get the greater benefit out of it. That's what this is all about. These women here that you see before you, they could have picked anybody. They were surrounded by all kinds of women that were out there struggling and trying to make ends meet, have very good intentions, wanted to see their communities get better. But they wanted to create something that was very selective and basically by design created a divide within the community. By design. I don't care how you paint it. By design, it created a divide within the community. And it promoted and continues to push classism. That's what these organizations are about. It's all about classism. And you know what the Bible says about that. A house divided cannot stand, will not stand. It won't. And so these things right now, the Most High, he's exposing all this stuff. He's exposing all these different organizations. And we're going to, as we continue to go through this series, the lead up on this is going to be, we're going to have a time where we're going to pray that the Most High will begin to bring these organizations down, bring them all down. We want to see all these organizations come down. It is okay for you to think outside the box. It's okay for you to question the narratives. It's okay to do that. So when you hear people in the media jumping all on you, calling you this, that, or whatever, just because you're asking questions. Now you know why. Because their paychecks, their status depends on your ignorance. As long as you stay on the plantation, it's okay. But the moment you start going off, whoa, wait a minute now. I can't do this. Someone made a comment. I'll close out with this. It was a quotation. I don't know who actually made it, but it was a quotation that was made long ago. And it goes like this. It says basically, that which you can't quantify, it can't be controlled. And so as a people, our emotions can be quantified. What can be quantified is the fact that anytime a race issue comes up, we're automatically going to get all up in our feelings. We're going to get emotional. That can be quantified because they know they can bank on that all the time. But when you start seeing people begin to ask questions and begin to question the narrative and start looking beyond the headlines, well, now that you can't in your own system, you can't quantify for that because it's like, whoa, wait a minute now. I can't handle that. And the look that you saw on Angela Rye's face when she got angry, it was like, how dare you even, y'all even dare ask that question? These people are feeling the heat now because they know it's coming down. All of this stuff is coming down. All of this system is coming down. And people are beginning to ask questions. So I encourage you likewise to do that. And like I said, again, we're going to be looking at all of these different organizations one by one by one. That's the intent here. We're going to do all of that. So I hope you learned something from this. I hope it encouraged you, if anything, to look yourself, to do your own research with this. You know, and most of all, to encourage you to continue to ask questions, to continue to go out there and explore and look at, wow, there are other things beyond the narrative that's been fed to me. Continue to do that. Okay, so said a whole lot. I think I'm going to go ahead and sit down finally so we get me a drink of water somewhere, and I think we're good. So with that being said, may y'all bless you and keep you. And like I said, until the next video, I'll see you soon. Take care.